The membership team is headed up by Donna Yelverton. They've put together a comprehensive membership plan, first also in my ministry here, but it will take time to cultivate and fully implement that plan. The second thing that we need is a church that is doing great things, which we have, who is ready to make space for the guest. I am not convinced that we are there yet as a congregation. Here is what I mean. After losing so much in the shutdowns and the transitions, for the past year, I have seen this congregation asking more often questions about how we can get what we need for ourselves, and less what the visitor or the future congregation will need. Here is an example that is showing me where we are developmentally in our recovery. In the before times, almost everyone would park across the street to make sure there were room for visitors. I don't see many of us doing that anymore. And I know that usually the sanctuary is only holding about 50 to 100 people, and so often the parking lot is not full, although sometimes it is full. I'm not saying this as a form of shame. I'm saying this as an observation of where we are developmentally in terms of our recovery. It is not unreasonable. So much of what we used to have has changed. You cannot put on someone else's oxygen mask until you put on your own. If you're still trying to get a handle on this church being yours again, it is challenging to make space for new people. But we are getting closer to that security point. We've been open steadily for more than a year. We are getting closer to trusting that we can breathe together in church. And I wrote that sentence after I caught COVID. When we start feeling comfortable with being back together again, when we are ready to start making the space for visitors, and when we have the infrastructure we will to truly welcome them, then we will start growing again. Any clarifying questions on that part too? All right. That's pretty good. This is the last one. And we're good? We're good. Create a culture that develops and fosters involvement, generosity, and engagement. Finally, we worked hard on this AVON. This is about shifting the culture in the congregation. So here's what we did. First, we put an emphasis on middle hour so that more people could engage in the ministries of this church. We launched the year with a connections fair. Is Penny here? Yeah, Penny helped run that. We're going to do it again this year, correct? In July. July is usually church shopping month, so that's part of the intentionality. It's true. June, I don't know, people do whatever they do in June. July is everyone who's just moved here or is really thinking about the upcoming year, and they come to church. So July is when we put all of our sort of UU 101 stuff out there. Anyway, then last August, we brought in congregational stewardship consultant Mark Ewert to talk to us about what our current status as a congregation is as it relates to generosity. And I was trying to have us have conversations about who we are as a people from when we reopened until that point, and I couldn't get y'all to talk about it. Because I think you were too new, too scared, or too trying to reconnect. But when Mark talked to you about money, you said how you felt about this church. And I mean that in good ways and also in ways you wish the church was different than it currently was or is. He said that this church was still reforming, still in the me phase, the I want phase, and it would take some time to shift into the who is next phase to kind of build that culture of generosity. Since his visit, we have established a generosity team that is chaired by Cappy Landrino and Donna Yelverton. The team is not just the annual budget drive. I need y'all to hear that. Because the annual budget drive will suck all the energy up and then it just becomes the other. That's all that team does. It is not that. The generosity team's charge is to oversee a cultural shift in the congregation, not to shore up the finances of the church, but to make us, not just to shore up the finances of the church, but also to make us a spiritually mature, giving congregation. So think of it this way. If you knew you were about to come into a financial windfall, or if you were heavily in debt or trying to figure out how much you needed to save to retire, Or if you were struggling with your finances or wanted to make an institutionalized gift to this church, this would be the team you would go to. Much less to secure funds for the church, and more so that it would, so that every member of this church had the capacity to be financially stable and secure, regardless of means or circumstances. And to even broaden it, that every member has the spiritually fulfilling relationship with money, regardless of their means or their circumstances. So generosity is in charge of much more than the annual budget drive. It includes fundraising, which is Penny Nichols, Connie McLeod, and Laura Richardson. It includes, I'm telling you, I haven't talked this much in a long time. Includes education, which is a team being put together by Aaron Sheehan-Dean. That's going to be actually like learning about finances and learning about generosity and things. They're still figuring that part out. And sort of the analysis and operations, which is going to be run by Diana Doro. And the annual budget drive, which is being run by Jane Webb and Janet Mulder. So, where are we? Since generosity is a part of the AVOM on this annual report, let's talk about the state of this church financially, not from the treasurer's perspective, but from the ministry perspective. And here's what you need to know about the church. First of all, most churches our size rely on pledges to cover about 70% of the total budget. Our church, 90% of it is covered by pledges. Those churches either have an endowment, which we only have a little bit of, or they have significant rental income, which we don't have a lot of. That means that our budget is about $200,000 less than other churches of similar size. Also, most UU churches make pledging a requirement for membership. And this church has said over and over that it is not within the values of this church. In other words, most churches our size have about 300 to 350 families who pledge. Our church only has about 220 to 230 families who pledge, which means those who pledge are supplementing those who do not pledge. This is not good nor bad. It is just the realities of the cultural values in which this church lives. So we can either, and we've already grown our giving capacity significantly, so until we either grow our membership or grow our outside income, we're going to continue to run a very tight budget. Which means that we run a budget that requires a lot of cuts. We had to cut programming in half, reduce our UUA, our gift to the association for the first time in a long time, and we did this at a time when many of you dramatically increased your giving. Now this may sound bad, but here's what it is. For a long time, as long as I've been in this church, the budget was supplemented by the capital fund drive, by grants from that. And the last 3 years, and some weird little tricks that Steve liked to use. In the last 3 years, we balanced the budget through PPP loans from the federal government. All of that money is gone. The budget we are working with this year is tight, but it is also sustainable. In other words, everything in our budget is accounted for and is easily replicated. There is no one-time money holding up this budget. In other words, you paid for all of it, basically. It has two implications within it. First, it means that we have to rely heavily on fundraising to balance the budget. I like being in a church that can give you a break from hearing about money without you feeling like you're being nickeled and dimed. But we have to do creative things like the hat rentals at Easter or things like that. So I put in an aspirational $35,000 that I didn't think we were going to get. And you all raised $30,000 just at the auction alone. So we're good fundraising-wise. But it means a lot more of those little fundraisers like the flooring and the kitchen, things like that. You're going to see more and more of it. If an AC goes out over the summer, Reverend Chris, you have permission to run a fundraiser to buy a new AC. It's a change in the culture of the church, not one that I want, but it is where we are currently. The other thing that this current budget means, and this one is significant, the Unitarian Universalist Association puts out guidelines for how your staff should be compensated. Because we couldn't increase salaries this year, your staff, who have been working very hard during these past few years, all lost money. The cost of living adjustment this year was 8%. that means there was an 8% reduction in the money that all of the staff took. I mean, they had the same paychecks, but an 8% reduction in their income. And all of them had an increase in insurance, which reduced their paychecks even more. This upcoming stewardship drive, we have got to shore up our staff compensation. We will be addressing this by having a comprehensive generosity. We are addressing this by having a comprehensive generosity team whose goal is to get you all to the state of financial comfort and stability in your own life and spirit. And then, if everyone in this church is able to give what they were able to give, we will have more than we know what to do with. The very last thing in here I have is 2 pages on sabbatical update, but I don't think you need to hear that because of the whole service. So that's the report. Now, let me also say the last paragraph says, I could not be more confident in Reverend Chris's abilities and leadership while I am gone. This church is poised to do some amazing things, and I'm excited to find out what a realigned ministry will look like with you when I return. So, are there any questions about the AVOM, about the annual report? You're up, Heather.
We have the next slide. Next slide, please. All right, so I had gotten a thumbs up earlier, so we do have a quorum. All right, yay. Okay, so next I'll cover some practical and parliamentary matters. I'm going to read the special rules of order to vote on. In the interest of providing for an efficient use of time, to provide for clear and orderly communication, to aid the board secretary in capturing spoken information, and to provide an opportunity for members to be heard during discussion, the following procedures shall be observed to conduct the business of this congregational meeting. The president of the board serves as chair of the congregational meeting and will recognize members to speak. David Hawley will serve as parliamentarian. Members making comments are requested to make the comments succinct and to address the chair, who will recognize persons to whom questions are directed for their response. Members will be limited to 2 minutes each time they speak. When addressing the congregation, members shall identify themselves so that they can be identified in the minutes. Please wait for confirmation that your name has been recorded. No member, other than a board member or someone identified to give a report or to answer a question, speaks a second time if another member is waiting to speak for the first time. If discussion occurs during any reports or motions on the agenda, discussion shall be limited to an initial period of 20 minutes. If members have additional comments at the end of that time, successive 10-minute time periods may be proposed for continuing discussion. At any point in the time during these periods of discussion, if no further discussion is needed, the chair will note that discussion has ended and call for a vote to end discussion, which, if approved by majority vote, will be followed by a vote on the motion to understand consideration. In lieu for calling for a motion and second for voting and discussion, a sufficient amount of time will be waited until it appears discussion is complete. Then a vote will be called. Likewise, the meeting may be adjourned by the president once all business is conducted without a motion to do so. I did not state it earlier, but the bylaws require a simple majority for approval for motions on the agenda. All active members may be vote. Proxies are not accepted for this meeting, but we did have early voting. Voting will be by raised hand, and those votes previously received via email will be included on the count. May I have a motion that congregants agree to observe the special rules of order? Okay, Marie moved. Can I have a second? Penny? All in favor? Okay. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to call up Marie now as a representative of the nominating committee. Next slide, please. And actually, you can go on to the next slide after that.
The nominating committee presents Debbie Duckworth to serve as member at large of the board for a 3-year term starting May 1st, 2023, Adam Voss for a second third-year term, and Heather Yankee as member at large for a two-year term starting May 1st, 2023.
Thanks. May I have a motion to vote Debbie Duckworth and Adam Voss to a 3-year terms and Heather Yonke to a 2-year term on the board beginning May 1st, 2023? Okay, Aaron so moved. A second. Okay, Megan? You got that, Adam? Megan G&D? Okay. Is there any discussion? Please vote by raising your hand. All in favor? Anybody opposed? No opposition. Anybody abstaining? All right. Thank you very much.
The nominating committee presents Jeff Gallagher to serve as the president of the board and Adam Voss as vice president for the 2023-2024 board term.
Right. May I have a motion to vote Jeff Gallagher to a 1-year term as president of the board and Adam Voss to a 1-year term as vice president of the board? Okay. Nancy Grush moves. A second. Okay, Jerry Becknell seconds. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Anybody opposed? All right, I'm looking at Jeff and Adam to make sure they're not opposing. Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much. Next slide, please.
The nominating committee presents Canova Smith Henderson to serve on the nominating committee.
Right. May I have a motion that Canova Smith Henderson be elected to serve on the nominating committee starting May 1st, 2023? Okay. Nancy Rabelais. Can I have a second? Leslie. Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Were you joking or were those oppositions? Okay, I just want to make sure, okay. Anybody abstaining? All right, thank you.
Oh, it's already up there. Healthy Congregation Committee. The nominating committee presents Vic Cross to serve on the Healthy Congregation Committee.
Okay, so is all right. So Nancy is moving that Vic Cross be served on, elected to serve on the Healthy Congregation Committee starting May 1st. Can I have a second? Okay, Sylvia Martinez. Everybody in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, anybody opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Marie. All right, I just want to, yes, and thank you to our new volunteers. So I want to thank Jeff and Adam for agreeing to serve as president and vice president and all the rest of the board for all of their continued dedication to the work of the church, to help with today's meeting, and for their support of me during this last year. David, thank you again for serving as our parliamentarian. To the nominating committee, thank you for your hard work. And then also, I'd like to thank Nathan and all of the staff. We recognize how hard they've been working. It's amazing. Just to hear that, how many of us have ever gone an entire year without taking a day off? It's just unbelievable the amount of work that they've done and their continued hard work. We appreciate it. We are really, Nathan, wishing you some rest and rejuvenation on your sabbatical. And we promise to keep calm and to keep on keeping on. I declare today's meeting adjourned. Wait, okay.
Madam President, may I have the floor?
Absolutely.
Grab a different.
He doesn't want, there might be germs on that one.
I'm sorry to interrupt your meeting, Heather. I know I'm not president for about 12 more hours, but the members of the board, on behalf of all of us, want to thank you for your year of service.
Thank you very
and this thing, which I don't know what it is.
Thank you. There are several gardeners on our board, and we do talk about plants every once in a while. Thank you very much. I appreciate this. So, I declare today's meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.